Hi everyone, I just want to give you a quick background on William Blake. He's the first poet we're going to be looking at in this romantic unit, and I think he's a good one to ease in with. He can sometimes get pushed into the 18th century by anthologies or critics, but I think he also fits in the romantic period pretty well. As you'll see, he's in our romantic book. But when we get to the end of this, you'll see how he truly kind of was a romantic at heart, even if he might have been born shortly before the romantic period really began. He was born in 1757 to a working class family. His father was a tradesman in London. He was a printmaker, so he was given lots of books and things he could read and study, but he didn't have a really true formal education in the way we would think. He didn't go to college like a lot of our big writers did. He kind of was a little bit self-educated through the readings. He went to a drawing school because he showed interest in art and said that's what he wanted to do. Ended up at the Royal Academy of the Arts. And then for 7 years, he apprenticed to an engraver who was really well known. And through that, he learned a lot of his skills that tie perfectly with his poetry. And as he was engraving, he started to show an interest in poetry, and he started playing with around with poetry. And we have that melding of his art, his engravings, and his poetry that come together. His works really shouldn't be read without the accompanying engravings and artwork he made with it, because he did not publish his work in a normal way. And you'll see in the Norton when you get to reading his biography, which you need to do. So if you haven't, pause, go read his biography, come back. But he did it in a way that he called Illuminated Printing. So basically he made his etchings and wrote his poems out, and then used acids and painting and stuff like that to really make it beautiful. So a lot of his works, there weren't many copies. Songs of Innocence and Experience, there's about 28 copies, and that's a huge thing for us to study now. However, there weren't a ton of copies of his work made, because he wasn't very popular when he was writing. His contemporaries didn't really think he was that great. People kind of thought he was a little crazy. It wasn't until about, I think it's the 1920s, that he really started getting his footing and being recognized for what he did. Now, according to the Norton, he is seen as one of the most dedicated, intellectually challenging, and astonishingly original artists. And that is echoed by many critics. And we'll see when we get to the 1920s, and if we talk about the Raphaelites, they really saw him as a precursor to them. Blake was very spiritual, it's worth knowing, and a lot of his works we'll see deal with that. He had what one critic called a lot of intense religious experiences when he was a child. They recorded him saying he saw a tree full of angels, he saw prophets, and talked with prophets. So he was very connected to his religious beliefs. And I think his wife says that it's in the Norm, but says something basically about he was always accompanied by his prophets or his religious connections. They were always with him, even if he wasn't paying attention to her. He does focus in his writing on sharing the spiritual world because he believed in it so strongly, and he felt like it was near and close, and there were spiritual battles being enacted in the daily life, and so people needed to be aware of what was going on. This is part of the reason people kind of thought he might be a little crazy, and they weren't really into his writings because it was just a little overwhelming for them. He wanted... Sorry, guys. He did want to represent internal things in terms of earthly symbols, which is how a critic that I've been reading put it. And so we will see a lot of earthly symbols. We're going to read about a lamb. We're going to read about a tiger. If you're familiar with the Christian religion at all, you should already recognize the idea of the lamb being closely associated with Christ and the Lamb of God. But he uses those as a way to talk about eternal things. And eternal things don't just mean Christianity. It can be other ideas, which we'll see as we dive into the poems. Outside of his religious beliefs and his ability to make beautiful artwork that help illustrate and explain his writings, Blake's greatness lies in his mastery in art and verse, both. So in art and verse, his mastery of extreme and moving simplicity. So when we read Blake, it's not just this over the top, highly intellectual thing. Even though the Norton says like he's intellectually challenging, he is accessible. I think he's more accessible than some of the other poets we could read or will read. So he is simple in his words, but through the simplicity, he takes us further. I do want to note, like I said earlier, I think Blake fits the Romantic period so well because he's rebelling against the 18th century. You guys may not have taken Brit Lit 1, but in the 18th century, we start getting these really restrictive, like you have to fit the perfect forms. You must be like the masters, like fit it perfectly, which is why in this unit we're talking about revolutions of poetry, think that we'll see from like Wordsworth and some from Shelley. But he rebelled against that and thought that Britain's future of its society, its literary success, its history, everything depended on recovering the almost lost past. So the idea that we needed to return to what we once were, go back to our roots, and really bring it forward, which is what the Romantics were doing, especially as we move into the Gothic writers. They were obsessed with that. That's where Gothic writing came from. Gothic dealt with the medieval writings, and we're bringing those themes back. And Blake thought we need to return to our roots, and that's how we're going to preserve the British Empire. So he's our first Romantic poet we're going to look at. Make sure you pay attention and really dig deep with the tiger and the lamb, and let's see what we can find.